How's it going, developers? TGIF on this beautiful Friday afternoon. How are you? Welcome to a late summer live stream on the RealToughCandy YouTube channel. Today's topic, why is backend worth more than front end? Ooh, interesting topic, right? Maybe stepping on a few toes here. This topic was inspired by something I was researching earlier in the week, the Snowflake IPO. We're going to talk about that. So a current event, kind of modeling what we're talking about today. It's not that often that our career field is mentioned in the mainstream media, unless it has to do with a lot of money. Well, as it so happens, our career field does produce a lot of money for people. So occasionally we are mentioned in money articles. Aside from that, though, don't expect much love. How are you doing out there? Let me get into my YouTube studio here so I can say hi to you all. We'll do a roll call. I have an awesome announcement, something I'm very excited to share. It involves my 5th book. I may as well go ahead and say it. Dropping on November 16th. I have previously released 4 books, all #1 new releases. I have no doubt this is going to be a #1 as well. It's called Portfolio Surgery. It's dropping November 16th. It is available for pre-order on Amazon. I'll show you all in just a sec, but let me go into my comments here and see who all is here. All right, we already have 12 people here. Awesome. Hey, what's up, your average programmer? Woohoo! Gregory Power, what's up? Mr. D Cobra is back online. Average Joe, Kodu Yandi. Hey, Ayub, what's up? Paradoodly do, the first on the chat. How's it going? I don't have a kombucha today. Someone asked me last week if I had tried Dr. Townsend's watermelon. I haven't tried that one yet. I'm actually all out of kombucha right now too, so excuse me if I flip out on the live stream. I'm already flipping out. Let's be honest. Hey, what's up, Radu? Okay, so let me get my little spiels out of the way. Let me share my screen here so I can show you what type of thing I'm going to be releasing in 2 months if I can figure out how to work Zoom. Great. That's just great. Share screen. Okay, where is it? I'm not going to waste too much time on this because I know you guys are here for today's topic, but I do want to brag about this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Vavoom. Portfolio surgery for junior web developers. Make it pop. Revamp boring software projects and build an unforgettable portfolio that employers love. Dropping again November 16th on Amazon. Paradoodly do, please be a doll and drop the link for people to check it out. This is also a course on RealToughCandy.io. For those of you who don't know, this is a learning platform, so you can level up, land a job, and get a raise. And that book is based on this course right here. This is a course designed to revamp your portfolio. I've been doing one-on-ones with developers for about 3 years, whether it's mentorship, consultations, even small groups. One of the biggest roadblocks they face is a portfolio that just isn't pushing the envelope and getting the attention of employers. A lot of cookie cutter projects, a lot of things that are just plain Jane, you know what I mean? But in this course, we go over 5 methods and I show you, I actually take a cookie cutter project and I totally transform it using 5 methods. Retheming, rewriting, going to the component level, refactoring, adding a feature, and then you have an amazing project that you can systematically apply these methods to all of your portfolio projects. So let's go to the next item up for bids, which is actually today's topic. Why backend is worth more than front end. I consider myself a full stack developer. My first job, I advertised myself as a full stack. I was hired as a full stack. I have an interest in the full stack. And honestly, my superpower is databases. I'm really good at them. I don't know why. I just am. That said, I do respect a really good front end design, architecture, all that stuff. But instead of teasing you along and getting into it 45 minutes later and telling you why backend is worth more than front end. Let's just talk about it right now. It's because the backend is where we contain something that is worth trillions of dollars when all added up. If you take every company in existence that has some sort of application with a back end, there's something inside each of those that is this glowing orb of money-making opportunity. What is it? Ready? I know you all know this, but I'm just gonna say it. Data. 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 It's the data. The data or data, depending on where you live, or data. The data is worth a lot of money. And so things that contain this data and better can organize this data and more efficiently organize this data and tweak this data, create, update, read, update, and delete this data. Ooh, now we're talking money. So for those of you who don't know, Snowflake is a cloud database product that's been around for a few years. I'm probably totally mischaracterizing this, but I think they've been around since like 2014. They've been around for a while and they just had their IPO. As you can see here from 2 days ago, Snowflake stock soars in largest software IPO ever. Here's another article, evaluating the 24 billion Snowflake IPO as a Silicon Valley engineer. CNBC, Snowflake files for IPO, taking on Amazon and Microsoft cloud database business. Business Insider from 3 weeks ago, Snowflake, the hot $12.4 billion cloud startup, files to go public. Man. And so on and so forth. Snowflake to make it snow on the New York Stock Exchange. The rapid ascent of Snowflake has been one of the better stories in the big data market over the past years. There's the ding, 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 ding. You hear that New York Stock Exchange bell? The data founded by database experts. Now, here's what's interesting. Anybody remember MongoDB? That's a really highly valued stock as well. Now, I Googled this here and it says Snowflake, one of the top things returned to me, Snowflake is overvalued. Here are 3 massive reasons to avoid it. Snowflake's first day pop means IPO left $3.8 billion on the table. IPO like it's 1999. Well, I like that artwork. What Snowflake and JFrog are telling us about the IPO market now versus 1999. Yeah, I mean, here's the interesting thing. Has anybody here read, what's that book, Disrupted? It's the guy who got fired from Newsweek, and then he was like a lowly employee over at one of those lame marketing companies. What is it? That you hear it everywhere, but no one uses it, and it used to be really terrible software. What was it? Dan Lyons wrote it. Somebody help me out here. Where did he work? I'm not going to Google it. I'm challenging my brain for once. But anyways, he writes about this kind of thing where these tech companies, let me take you off share here. Stop it. He writes about these tech companies in this book, Disrupted, about just this bubble mindset where tech companies don't have to make money in order to go public, in order to generate a lot of interest. Take, for example, LinkedIn. There are so many tech companies out there that have never turned a profit, and yet their valuations are in the billions of dollars. It's absolute madness. And right now, all eyes are on the latest madness, which is Snowflake. So this is where it comes in to, this is where we're going to talk about what we do and how we matter in all this, because this is like big business and Oracle's taking over TikTok and all this stuff. Another database company. Interesting. The more you know. Money's in the data. But let me go back to the comments here. Hold on. So how does this relate to us? Well, here's the interesting part. Now remember, the money's in the data. Our data is worth money. How does Google make money? It tracks us. It eats our data for breakfast. It has us solve puzzles and uses that information and uses that data to make more interesting puzzles that will take over the world. It's all a sick ploy. So this data is worth so much money. And here's where front-end development comes in. You've seen these React positions. Like a lot of times you'll see front-end developer jobs pay more in the same locality than backend. Interesting, right? So let's put this together, because the money isn't in Bootstrap, but front-end developers get paid pretty decently. Why is that? Come on, neurons. Let's fire here. Do it for me. Hold on. Backup caffeine. Why is this? Why are React developers getting paid $150,000 a year? I sound like a Kardashian with this vocal fry. Tell me why. Why? Because companies need a way to acquire that data. And if the UX UI sucks, if the site is not performant, if you can't access a certain component or thing, or the color combinations suck, or is just looking outdated and functioning in a way that is just a little dusty, that company's not going to get the data it wants. Let's take a really small example. You're reading blogs, right? Probably all of us read a blog here or there, or read an article every so often, right? How many sites do you go to where they have that pop-over, that modal that says, give us your email and we'll send you a free ebook, or we'll send you a free cheat sheet, or we'll send you a guide, or some piece of information that has a little bit of value? They're exchanging your data for a little carrot. But what creates that? What pulls you in and convinces you to give them your address? Well, let's go over it. This is all front end stuff, even to the point of copywriting, writing the things that are going to psychologically entice you to hand over that email address. So the copy, the colors, the transitions. Sometimes with those modals, it's like a boom right in your face, and other times it's a really nice CSS transition or whatever they're using to fade in with that modal. All of those things create an experience, and the better experience you can create, the more people are going to be trusting of this platform, whether it's Google or a little teeny blog, to give their information. So that is why front-end developers are so important, because even if we don't, let's take it out of this money generating scheme for a moment. And even just talk about like nonprofit, good for the people type websites. You have to have a good UX UI and you have to have a good front-end experience. Otherwise, your users aren't going to stick around. And if they don't stick around, they're not going to be engaging with you, what you're offering. You're not going to get any of their data. Even if you never sell it, data helps you make decisions on the business level. It's the only thing that really can guide you somewhat accurately when making these decisions. Well, what does the data show? You have to create these experiences so that people trust the site or the application. I was checking out this it was a stock trading application the other week. This is how important it is. So this is really, they need my data too. They need my banking info, or they're not going to make any money off me. So I was signing up for this banking or this stock app, and like the colors were very unprofessional. Like it was like a swamp. It was like a Oscar the Grouch green and like a neon yellow. And I'm just like, this isn't working. And then like, Times New Roman or Roman Times New. I never get because which one is it? Times Roman New, Times New Roman. You guys know what I'm talking about. It just looked really sketchy. But this app had really good reviews, and even people on YouTube, and people some person in my network was like, yeah, I use it, it's fine. So I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. But the one, I just didn't feel good about it. So, but I still wanted to get my little free $10 credit. So I'm filling out the thing. And then there's this little, like, it wasn't a modal, just this side area of text. And the grammar was incorrect. It was Y-O-U-R instead of Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. People do that all the time. But remember, this is an application that wants my banking information. If you can't get the simple stuff, that kind of thing happens all the time again. But when you're working on an enterprise application, that makes a big difference. And it just was suspicious. So I said, you know what, forget it. I won't do it. And they lost my business. They could have made a lot of money off of me, but it just seems suspicious. And as front-end developers, if we're not creating trustworthy experiences, i.e. proofreading what we write and correcting these grammatical mistakes, even though they seem simple and insignificant, they're not insignificant. That's our job. And if we don't fulfill that as developers, as designers, we're not gonna get the data the company wants. Why do these companies want engagement? More data. Even if you, there's this really good channel on YouTube, the Nielsen Norman Group. So Nielsen was the guy responsible back in 1994. He wrote the pivotal work, 10 Heuristics for User Interface Design. Must read document, relevant now more than ever. But that channel has these little like tidbits, like 1 and 2 minute videos, really professionally produced, showing you things like F patterns, like the way people read sites and apps. It's really interesting. They use data. They weaponize it in such an amazing way. These patterns where people read and how the typical user, skims through data or skims through content or scans content, depending on the layout. And every one of these little tiny videos illustrates the critical importance of a good experience. And shameless self-promotion, I have a course, UX UI for web developers on RealToughCandy.io. It's an introductory course, again, designed to help you level up, land a job, and get a raise. It's practical stuff. We build a project, and you can take your own spin on it and do whatever you want with it. Yeah. But let me have a little sip here and we'll go to the comments because there's a lot to talk about with this. Just reading over that Snowflake IPO thing is just like, how many times can you repeat this type of behavior where a tech stock is completely overvalued? The company doesn't make any money. Like, fun fact, GitHub has yet to turn a profit. I don't know about Twitter. So a lot of these social media sites, they've been around forever and they still can't turn a profit. Like, where are you getting these valuations? Selling data. Selling data. So grab a tea, grab a snack. We're going to take a little 10-second intermission here while I check over these comments. Then we'll get back to it. Let's see. Hey, Candace, what's going on? Curtis Davis, good evening to you as well. Rick Cable. Let's see. Welcome, Radu. Good comments here. Holy smokes. Okay, a lot to talk about. Aldair, what's up? All right. Radu has an interesting comment. I've noticed some stigma against front end by some developers because front end has an interest in visuals and is creative. I have heard it not be considered real programming compared to back end. Radu, I have heard that exact critique as well. And there's still that stigma. It's almost like a stereotype. But the thing is, it's not 1992 anymore. People back in the day, because it was a budding the web was a budding technology, and interfaces, and the masses weren't online. But now the internet, this protocol is a utility. everyone's online. Everyone's online. If they're not online, their data's online. And so the way you attract a crowd is a lot different than how you attract a hobbyist. A hobbyist does it for the love, and they're very forgiving about how things look and work. And the big difference is that hobbyists don't mind reading the manual. There isn't not you, could you imagine having someone read an entire book just to log on the internet in log on the web in 2020? Part of that transition is making it so people don't think. And that happened through front end. Because, I mean, now to be fair, there's backend involved in almost everything as well. But what I'm saying is, for people to have a mindless experience and not think about where to navigate on the typical web app, that's front end. That's design, that's architecting the front end. That's making sure all your little buttons and components are in the right places so people can use these things without having to read a manual. Imagine having to go to every website. If we didn't have front-end designers, front-end developers, imagine going to a web app, every one of them having to read how it works because there are no standards. We have no, I don't know, just heuristics, going back to that Nielsen document. We have no guidance for creating a good experience. The web could be a lot worse than it is. And as far as the technology goes, I mean, we've come so far in the last 2 decades. Like, it's insane. And I see this, I still do see it sometimes. It's not as bad as it was with these old schoolers who started back in the day with backend, who don't see the need for a good front end. And I think a lot of it is just, you do something for so many years that you get clouded by the relevance of new things. And in the wise words of the great BB King, you have to change with the times or you're going to be playing to an empty theater. I mean, it's true. And this is the thing with this career field, is that we're always changing. We have so much data. And this is talking about this video, like the money's in the data, and it can benefit us as developers too, to see where some of these trends are going, to see what people are doing, to infer the meaning of when people read in an F-shaped pattern. That's front end stuff. And in today's economy, it's not just a hobby, and it's a must. The internet is a must for everyone, whether you're a consumer for anything or you want entertainment. Like, how many things have gone online? Every facet of our lives has gone online. It's insane. It's crazy. I mean, how many synonyms can I find for just one word? Let me count the ways. But yeah, Radu, that's a really interesting comment, because it is something I hear about quite often. And I do see kind of like the world of two webs, or maybe there's like more than two. There's like the consumer level web where front end development is super important. And then there's like, you know, the 10-person intranet where front end isn't important at all, hardly. It's like, okay, we need a box for a login, and then the back end does its thing. I worked at a data company. So when I was in enterprise development, before I started my own business, I was in enterprise, and I worked at a data company. And it was kind of that attitude too, of the owner who had been around since the 80s. Like, this guy developed his own system based on an IBM on the AS400. It's an IBM server. He developed his own system, and it was really cool to see. And it was all back end. So he didn't, because that's where his money was. He had the old school mentality of, the front end's just for fluff and frills. I don't know, the CSS and HTML nonsense. And also the computers and things were interacting with the computer was around way before the web. And this guy was around before the web, like massively around before the web. So his mindset was totally different. And front end is becoming more and more important, just because the designing for a mass amount of people is so important. And to have a back end developer, someone trained in back end, try to create something for the front end without training or like an understanding of some of these things is a bad move. You have to have someone who knows how to do these things, or at least knows where to start. Fortunately, we have a lot of tools, but when we're talking about 20, 30, $100 million applications, clicking a $10 theme on WordPress isn't going to cut it. Like, you got to go deep into that code and really get into the anatomy of it. Let's go to these comments. Let's see. Hey, Tasha's here. Tasha says, what's up, Tasha? Tasha, I still have to send you that sticker. Oh, thanks for reminding me. Your name reminded me that. So note to self, send Tasha a sticker. When I see people being negative towards any profession, I think, but can you do it? People are so mean to people, especially on the internet. I can't stand it. I know. Tasha, that comment, I know. And I've been doing YouTube for like 3 years, and people make the silliest comments, and it's just like, now that I am in the mix, now that I am in the business, and I am, my trade is software, I can see right away that these people are just not in that position. If you're unable to carry a professional or just an adult conversation, if you can't do that, it's usually an indicator that number one, you have some improvement to be doing of your own. And I used to respond to these comments. They're just very negative and nasty. And to be totally honest, I was like that too when I first started this career path. I'd go on these videos and I'd be totally lost, and I'd take it out on the creator or just be like, say something rude. And it was because I was frustrated with myself. So I'm not going to say I'm giving these people a pass for being negative and nasty, but I do understand where it comes from. And that is frustration with self, and sometimes jealousy. People want to be given stuff. A lot of people just don't want to work for it. This is a tough career field. This is a tough freaking career field. And that is going back to the back end front end thing. That is where I have seen it. And to be fair, I've seen some front end people say some rude comments about back end too. And every one of us has thought something negative about someone else. But the internet makes it a lot easier, no doubt. And it is kind of depressing, as Tasha indicated. Fortunately, hey, totally somewhat off topic. Did anyone here go to the React Global Summit earlier this week? It was a 24-hour summit online. There were 2 tracks. There was the junior track, which was free, and then there was the paid track, which was for mid-level to senior developers. It was cool. It was very cool. If you missed that, another one is coming up next month. Now, this is a different company. It's just the React Summit, not the React Global Summit. There's a little bit of drama going on with that. It's kind of interesting. I had no idea until I started Googling it, and there was just like, it was interesting. We'll put it at that. But next month is going to be another React Summit, mid-October perhaps. I don't know when. Just Google it. And the Basecamp track is free for juniors. There's also other tracks and tiers, so I hope to see some of you there. It's going to be virtual. Really exciting. But these kinds of professional things, this does kind of tie into what we're talking about, because professional growth is available to us in this career field like none other. Like, I thought people in the medical field had it made with their summits, their meetings, their trainings. They're always training on new stuff or doing team building stuff, or going to some resort out west and like getting on inflatables and talking about nursing terminology. There's always some sort of advertisement for some sort of awesome training in the medical field. But looking at software, we have some amazing opportunities too. Unfortunately, with the Rona, the in-person stuff totally bumming me out. A lot of it has been canceled, but some of it has gone online, like these React summits. A lot of meetups have gone online too. JavaScript meetups, I've been to a few. But this is a great thing for our career field too, because I think it fosters an understanding and bridging the gap between front end and back end, and just making people more empathetic to plights of other developers. Yeah, and even designers, who doesn't get a lot of love in 2020 are front end designers. It's like there's this push to code, and it's kind of, I don't want to use the word depressing, but it is a trend I have been seeing, especially with, again, React, which is taking front end development by storm. So there's this push to just focus on the component. We're focusing on components and not CSS sheets, not these sheets, not these pages, but designing components and using JavaScript to help us. So is this a move to squeeze out front-end designers who only know a little, not only know, but who specialize in HTML and CSS? There are still people out there who are making a living with just HTML and CSS, but those people, those jobs are less and less every year. More and more companies, even though they have no idea what they're doing when they name drop all these terminologies, 20 years React experience, it's like, tell me you're kidding. Regardless of whether they know what they're talking about or not, they still want people who know React. And the move from design to a de facto scripting language or programming language, it's more and more every year. So I do feel like front-end designers are a endangered species at this point. Let's go to the comments. Sorry, my table's squeaky. Hello, I'm underpaid. Excuse me. Hello, I'm underpaid. Where have you been? How's it going? Hello, I'm underpaid. I actually did a collaboration with Jenna. Hello, I'm underpaid. Like 2 years ago already. And it's good to see you. How you been? Sarah's here. What's up, Sarah? Sarah says, finally made it to a live, been a few weeks. Good to see you. Julio says, funny how some of the programmers who bash front end can't code a modal with vanilla JS or put two buttons next to each other. Yeah, and I mean, that's just it. Going back to Julio's comment and Tasha's comment, people who are the most vitriolic, often it's usually from a place of ignorance. And the more we can understand what other people do in order to make something happen is going to be better. And I think, you hear that word a lot, empathy. You have to be empathetic in development. Like, what does that actually mean? Well, I think it makes us more human. We spend a lot of time in front of a screen. And sometimes it can be difficult to understand the plights of others when we're so hyper-focused on getting our own work done. But I mean, even like, it's not just exclusive to development. Like even on YouTube, like how hard can it be to make a video? Well, actually, it takes about 6 to 8 hours after everything is said and done for an 8 to 10 minute video. What do you mean? You just don't press the button and upload it? Like, no, there's the process, and that's an interesting point too about our process, because we get paid to solve problems, and the way we solve problems is by applying our problem-solving process. The money is in the process. So going back to the topic of this video, why backend is worth more than front end. It's not that the technologies in backend are worth more than those in the front end, because we are all working together to get that data. The process of collecting that data, the process of collecting it, sending it back, manipulating it, organizing it, putting it in cute little rows and columns, querying it, that's a big process. And that takes the work of front end and back end, because again, with that data, you have to convince people to give it. And then but once you get it, I mean, there are a lot of places. I got this silly little credit card offer the other day. Fortunately, they're a little more transparent about what they do with your data and how you can control it. So there's like this huge table they have in one of their marketing materials inside the envelope of like, yes, please let us charge you a 35% interest rate with the silly line of credit. Like, wow, where do I sign up? So I'm looking over this packet. Aside from the ridiculous APR, they're saying where they can use your data and how they sell it, and if you have control over it. So there's like 6 places, like literally 6 columns where you cannot control the flow of your data. So for example, let's say you go to, I don't know, what's like a huge too big to fail bank, Chase. Let's say you go to chase.com, you apply for a credit card. What do you got to do when you apply for a credit card? You got to put your name, your social. They ask you how much money you make. Sometimes they ask for a driver's license if you're like opening an account or something, or if you're on a list. So you submit that data. You agree to their privacy policy, and that's where it is. That's where the murky, nasty stuff is. So I'm reading over it. That's the data they have on you. They can do a lot with that. First name, last name, date of birth, social, they can do a lot with that. Plus your annual income, they can do a lot with that. There's like 5 or 6 places where you have no control over it the minute you submit that info. There are 2 or 3 places where you can control it, but it does take some effort. For example, when they sell it to affiliate third parties, when they sell it to non-affiliate third parties, they're making money 5, 6 times over and over on that little bit of data that you submitted. Because from that data, think about all the things they can do. They can get your credit. They can research you in other ways. They can exchange it with the credit agencies, Experian, TransUnion, etc. They can do a lot of crap with it. And it's worth money. It's worth money. And when you click that button, you just made the money. How did that happen? From a developer standpoint, think about it was Herculean in nature. So much back-end work going into that just little teeny tiny application form. And the front end, designing a form so that you felt comfortable entering that information. That was a process. And so the value is in front end and back end. But the actual cash is held in this glowing orb in a database. And so that's why we say back end is worth more than front end. But really, it's an entire effort. It's an entire effort to get that data. So anyways, going back to so they sell that data to third-party affiliates, third-party non-affiliates. You can go in and say, please stop selling my data. And you know what's the jacked up part? Once you close your account, they're still selling your data. I mean, they're making, aside from the interest rates, they're making a lot of money on that stuff. That's why we see Snowflake's IPO, $23 billion, valued at $23 billion or something, just absolutely freaking ridiculous. MongoDB, absolutely ridiculous. That's on the stock exchange as well. Let's see what their stock's at. Sorry, my table is super squeaky. Let's see, MongoDB, stock price. Oh my, okay. Holy crap. Hold on, developers, let me share this screen with you really quick. Share screen. Oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. Hold on. I messed something up. Hold on one sec. Let me get into Firefox here. You're not going to believe this. Someone already probably Googled it. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let me share the screen. This time for real. Share screen. Okay, ready? Watch this. Look at this. MongoDB stock $214.35 per share. Wow. That's crazy. That is too crazy. And the funny thing is that most companies, MongoDB has such a small market share when it comes to databases. It's absolutely crazy. But because they deal with big data, again, it's big money. Yeah, let's talk about this. Boom. Designs and deadlines, talking about UX UI. I have this course on RealToughCandy.io. shows you how to make beautiful interfaces and build experiences. And we use Adobe XD to build interfaces. We talk about pre-built UI libraries. You learn about UX UI fundamentals. Again, that's on RealToughCandy.io, along with a bunch of other different courses that you are sure to find compelling. They're all based on real world stuff. So check it out. All right, let's go to the comments here. Interesting little bit of information with that MongoDB stock price. Absolutely unbelievable. It's too crazy. Let's see. Okay, Hello, I'm Underpaid has some comments here. Wait for it, wait for it. Lots of good comments here. Let's see. Rick Cable says front-end design is far more important than most businesses give it credit for when it comes to customer satisfaction. I see it every day. Yeah, exactly. The user experience, the user interface, customer satisfaction. A database can't deliver that to a person alone. Let's see. Candace says we all need both front end and back end for our day-to-day access to data. Yeah, absolutely. Code UI Andy says, I have seen front end guys and still very good with back end stuffs, but I have never seen a back end guy good with front end. So please, let's not underrate front end development. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Gabrielle Young says, hey, RTC, I work in QA, but I'm curious to learn about full stack development. Keep being awesome. Well, thanks, Gabriel. Rock on. I hope your journey is treating you well so far. Ryan Keefe, what's up? Andy Lynn, some new faces, some new people. Andrielle, what's up? I heard of a girl that got coupons in the mail for diapers before she found out she was pregnant. Listen, I know exactly what you're talking. That was, I believe it was in Minnesota. All right. It was in Minnesota and she was a teen mom. She didn't tell her dad and it was Target. And we have talked about this on the channel before because it's jaw dropping Target inferred from her purchases that she was pregnant. And they sent her in the mail this, coupons and flyers and stuff. And her dad's like, excuse me, what the heck is all this baby stuff? You're 16. She didn't tell him she was pregnant. Target outed her as being pregnant. It was crazy because of the data. I know it does go wrong. yes, Andrea. I remember that story. It was just a few years ago. You know what? I have to know the exact details on that now. Target, I want to Google this and not like Target pregnancy test. No, Target pregnant girl. Yeah, here we go. This is from 2012. Target's algorithm did predict that this girl was pregnant. Yeah, okay, it was 2012. So I thought it was just like 3 or 4 years ago. Wow. Madness. There's a comment from, okay. Hello, I'm underpaid. Jenna says, yeah, resources for HTML email devs is tough. I know Treehouse and Coding Face has a course, but I haven't taken either. Oh, yeah, HTML email development. That's another thing. That is, because Ryan Keefe asked, how would you get paid just to know HTML and CSS? How is that possible? Little niche things like email, HTML and CSS email development, which is a really specific skill set, especially because we do have these email solutions like MailChimp and stuff. A lot of companies aren't using that for various reasons, or they need a bigger, better solution. They need something more custom. And the issue, the reason HTML email developers are so in demand is because email clients, you think it's hard developing with browsers, with three main browsers, whatever. And yes, IE, RIP, but you know what I mean? We have a little handful of browsers. You think that's tough? Try designing for email clients because there are so many more. Even though, yeah, like it's crazy. So you do need a lot of skills. And I think some people, I don't blame people for wanting the easiest route, okay? I'm one of those people too. Electricity follows the path of least resistance. If I could get paid 6 figures for studying for 2 weeks, I'd totally do it. And so people get the idea like, oh, it's just HTML. How hard can it be? But hello, I'm underpaid. Actually, Jenna, didn't you? I mean, you used to be an HTML or HTML email dev, right? I don't want to, it's been so long. I don't want to overspeak or speak on something that isn't correct. But I know there's at least one current or former HTML email developer in this room right now. Let's see. Sir Porky says that database basically is a gold mine for third party or whatever companies looking for information. I see how things work now. LOL. Yeah, Sir Porky. I mean, that's just it. It is a digital gold mine. And what happens when all the gold is gone from the mine? You go to another stream and find some more. And here's what's interesting is that data it does differ from a traditional gold mine because data is a renewable resource. Our patterns are predictable, but we also have factors. We have this X factor. We actually have multiple factors. It's not an X factor. We have multiple factors that influence our behaviors throughout our life. Whether we change economic income brackets, whether we move to different states or countries, whether we have kids, whether our marital status changes. There are so many inputs that form our data and transform our data that it's a continuously renewable resource because people are dynamic. They want to shut us up, but we're dynamic, darn it. We change, we're different. We are predictable in so many ways. We are creatures of habit, but we're also dynamic and that changes. And so there's this continuous hunger for turning on the Oracle XL and vacuuming up all of our data at any given time. Like, for example, I know right now in this live stream, my voice, the words I'm speaking is being analyzed by YouTube. How are they able to instantaneously produce closed captions? How are they instantaneously able to demonetize a video when they hear the F-bomb? Because everything communicated is being analyzed. And so I exchange their free service for, I strike a deal with them. I say, I'll agree to your privacy policy in exchange for me having a platform where I can talk about development. And for most people, when we log on to Gmail, we log on to these services, they're free. And we accept that. We all know our data is being sold, and we accept that in exchange for services. I just wish there was a way to pay to opt out. And I've tried alternatives. I like supporting smaller things. I like supporting new thoughts and privacy minded applications, but they have. It's just that Google does it better. Like, Gmail is really handy. I've never had a problem with it. Yes, I know they're scraping everything off every email, but it's clearly something I've accepted and I've agreed to. I've agreed to that exchange. You can skim my emails and apply AI in exchange for me getting a really convenient email service that I can log on anywhere, where I can log on just about anywhere. So I guess the moral of this video is never underestimate the power of data. Let's go to these comments. Troy Mitchell says, "Yup, your app is judged primarily on how it looks, regardless of how good it functions in the back end most of the time." Right. Well, I mean, a lot of times too, you'll see people, how do I say this? The common user, the typical average user, they're not developers. This is what's so funny. So, like, if you're a musician and you go to a show, someone plays the wrong note, you're going to hear it. Certainly that musician is going to hear it. I went to a show one time and I talked to the guitarist afterward. He's like, "Oh man, I was so off." And I was a musician at that time too. And I maybe heard like one sour note. I'm like, considering everything you played, it was like a 2-hour set. I'm like, considering everything you played, you sounded awesome. He's like, "No, I totally blew it." And it's just like, as that creator, you see all your mistakes, but the audience sees something completely different. Same thing with apps. If you have a group of 10 developers in the room and you say, "Hey, front end, back end, full stack, database, let's throw a DBA in there for good measure." And you say, "Hey, can you guys check out this application?" You're going to get some really scathing, maybe even off topic. Your reviews are going to be developer centric. They're going to be looking at the code. They're going to be testing things. They're going to be, putting whatever. When you do that to those 10 developers and then bring a room of 10 average users who aren't developers and say, "Hey, can you review my app?" You will have something completely different. They're not going to see the code. They're not going to comment on, "Oh, wow, this JavaScript function is really under optimized." Like, they're not going to say anything about that. So it's like, and I see this, there's so much to talk about with this, because I see this, especially with early developers who are scared to show their work because people in the business can sometimes be very highly critical. And it's like, number one, it's okay to be critical, but it has to be productive. It has to be, constructive criticism. There's a difference between being a condescending jerk and having constructive criticism. And number two, this whole thing of empathy again, empathizing with your end user. Because yes, well, as a backend developer, I wouldn't have done this or that. Okay, like, thank you for that input. But right now we're focused on the end user. So it really does depend on who your groups are. Who are you polling? Because again, like, as that person, whoever it was, sorry, I already forgot who commented on that. Troy Mitchell was saying, people looking at apps, the average person is just like, "Okay, oh, it's pretty with a lot of colors. I like it." That's why you see these apps as developers. Sometimes I see these applications, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And I turn into a hater, but then I remind myself, listen, this person is making $1 million off this app. How many downloads has it had? It has shiny buttons and colors and confetti. People love that stuff. Like, it's such a different audience. Let's go to these comments. Oh, I heard some Proton Mail. People dropping the Proton Mail. Gregory Power says Proton Mail is pretty good. Candace says YouTube and other companies use natural language processing for that. Oh, talking about YouTube processing my speech. Yeah. Thus, such is life. I agreed to their terms and services. Like I said though, I wish I could pay to just opt out of it. It's like, okay, how much are you asking? Like, what's a good price? How much is my data actually worth? Because there is like there is an exact number that my data is worth to tech companies. How much is that worth? I want a solid number. And that might even be a thing. You know how California, there's always like the warning labels, and there's like the extra California warning. If it's going to happen in any state, it's going to be in California, where there's got to be like a truth in data disclosure on these big tech companies' websites or something, where you can look yourself up and see how much your data is being sold for, because it is pennies on the dollar. But if you do it, continuously with 1 billion people, it adds up. I want to see how much my data is worth. Don't I have the right? You're selling my personal data. I should have the right. But that's getting kind of ranty and off topic, but it is part of the package of data, the back end being worth more than the front end, but the development process being important in the front and the back in order to get that data. Tasha said sometimes you have to think like your consumer, like a dingbat. Paradoodly Do says, Proton Mail is good, but I still get marked as spam to people I regularly email. Yeah, I had that problem too. I like Proton Mail. I love the concept, but I need more convenience. It has a lot of false negatives that I wasn't a fan of. Derpty Derp CGI main says, love the handle. The importance of the front end is to not only be aesthetically pleasing, but also to not scare away customers. If you see a site that looks like it was made 30 years ago, you'll think it's not safe. Exactly. Yes, exactly. And that's what I was talking about. The exact thing with that stock application I was signing up on. It was just looking outdated, and every time I advanced to the next screen, something else gave me just I lost trust in the app, and they lost me as a customer. So, I mean, it is so critical. It is so very critical. Scott Miller says the Rona has thrown a bit of a kink in the predictive algorithms. Yeah, that's going to be interesting once we emerge from this time in history to see what the bots think of this. Andriel says, you can't get away from Google. My kids use Google Classroom. You know, Andriel, Google has some really awesome products, and some of them I haven't even checked out. Google Classroom is one of those products that I've heard of, but I haven't checked out. So I'm wondering, like, yeah, I mean, there it is. Oh, exactly, though. It's hard to get away from them because one, their digital footprint is like as big as the world. And number two, they make really good products. And that's the irony. A lot of their products are so great because of all the data they have to make really good design decisions and really good products that people actually want to use. Every 4 or 5 years, there's like this huge, I've been on YouTube prior to RealToughCandy. I've been on YouTube since like 2011. Every couple of years, anyone here remember the big Google Plus scandal where we had like assy art of like tanks inside the comments? Because in order to comment on a video, you had to have a Google Plus account. Well, fast forward a few years later, and Google Plus is no longer in existence. But there is this huge uproar, like, yeah, we're all gonna go to Vimeo. Yeah. Like, dude, no one's going to Vimeo. I'm sorry, no one's going there. YouTube would have to make what catastrophic failure. People aren't going anywhere. YouTube is the second. If YouTube was a search engine, it'd be the second highest search engine in the world, just behind google.com. It's not going anywhere unless there's like a huge bit of government intervention or something. These companies are intertwined in us. Let's see. Some really great comments today, guys. Thanks for showing up and sharing your thoughts on this. For those of you just joining us, we're talking about why backend is worth more than front end. A lot to talk about. Talking about the pregnant girl who got Target mailers in 2012. Talking about the data. Talking about how front end plays into that data acquisition and front end design, the importance of front end design. Let's check these comments out. And it's, here's the other thing. I don't want to end this on a negative, depressing note. But the reason we are making so much money as developers is because we're making these companies a lot of money. Some people take the attitude of the 10x and 10x. So like, you pay an employee $50,000 a year. The company wants to make 10 times that from you. That's their quick shorthand formula, 10x. If we're paying them 50,000, we want them to make us 500,000. It happens a lot. But again, going back to Tasha's great comment of people, it's easy to criticize, especially online. Building a business is very hard, and being an employee is one of the best things. I mean, think about it. You go to the interview, you pass the interview, you're never tasked with making a huge life or death decision. Whereas with a business owner, okay, I'm not going to be so dramatic that it's life or death, but it's really stressful as a business, and it takes a long, building a business is a process. Whereas becoming an employee, yes, there's a little process with the interview process. But once you get the job, you get the desk, you get the computer, you get the tasks, you get the manager. It's not like you're out looking for managers. Imagine getting a front-end developer position and then having to find a manager for yourself. That work has been done for you as an employee. There's a lot of great things that come with being an employee at a good company. You're taken care of at a good company. That is, I want to be very specific about that. But it's all, I mean, there are huge challenges no matter what path you choose. And as someone who has dabbled in front end, back end, database, and now running a business, like there's no easy path to success, to wealth, to economic freedom. There's no easy path to it. You have to keep grinding. You have to keep working. You have to put yourself over the edge or get close to the edge and say, "Oh my gosh, I can't do this," and then find the inner fortitude to do it. You don't have to be the brightest bulb in the room. You just have you have to have the courage to do it. We see this time and time again throughout history, and especially, I can't speak for any other country, but at least in the US, there are so many ways where if you push yourself, you can find success. But the key is to have that fortitude, because you're going to get stomped on and you're going to get dirty looks and you're going to get criticized from people who sometimes love you the most. Such is life. Let's see. So many comments here, developers. Paradoodly-doo says, I keep my phone in the other room now. If I have unique conversations and use my phone, I have ads for that specific topic. Okay, so a lot of places have been saying, I think I have talked about very specific things and then saw an ad on my phone for it not long after that. And people are like, oh no, it doesn't listen. The microphone's off. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think that's true at all. It's better to ask for permission than to ask. No, it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. I don't think permission has been asked to analyze my vocal expression, to analyze my voice conversations, but I truly believe they are being used for advertising purposes. Again, and just another stack on this collection, this cornucopia of data that is worth so much money. Developers, today has been great. Gnome, what's going on? Gnome has a great question. Do you think going solo might be more profitable for developers these days or at all? If you're talking about freelancing, let's see. So I don't know if you're talking about freelancing or starting your own business or just maybe like selling themes or whatever. But this is a really great question, and it's something to keep in mind as we enter late 2020, 2021. This is a optimistic channel. This career field is filled with opportunities. But as we saw in 2008, well, there was this explosion of the sharing economy. So prior to 2008, 2009, Airbnb, like sharing my home, yeah, that's gross. Once the economy turns south, people are more open to these ideas, and the ideas become permanent. So even in good economic times, Airbnb is a stalwart of the traveling set around the world. I stopped using Airbnb about 5 years ago, and I have zero regrets. Just throwing that out there. Way too many creeps, but things like Airbnb. So what I'm getting at is going solo. I have a course called Freelance Newbie. Shameless promotion. It's on RealToughCandy.io. It's also a book. The reason I wrote it is because and produced the course is because so many people have asked me about freelancing and these side hustles and opportunities. And because this career field is still wide open, I mean, it is wide open. You can get a client by the end of the week. There are still people who need websites. There's someone in your circle who needs a website or a web app. I can promise you. Even if you know one person, they need a web app. If they already have one, they need an improvement on it. They need a feature. They need a rewrite. They need a retheme. And so you can start with $0. If you have a computer, you don't even have to have a computer. You can fricking get a free tier on Heroku or something and use a library's computer. You can start with $0 freelancing. And that's why I think it is so promising, because you can start as you're learning, and you may find that going solo is for you. There are a lot of opportunities out there just doing it yourself. But again, just like we are talking about earlier, it's tough. It's all tough. It's a process, and it doesn't come overnight. One of my most popular videos on this channel is my first year freelancing. It really was awful. Thankfully, I stuck with it and had some really great experiences with it. but you're going to get stomped on. It's just a fact of life. And the sooner you can get it out of the way, the better, and become the person that you want to be. Good question. All right, developers, paradoodly do, thanks for the plug. We are gonna sign off here. We have 67 viewers. Developers, if you enjoyed today's chat, please hit the thumbs up. Tell YouTube, tell the natural language processors involved in analyzing and dissecting my voice that this was a fairly legitimate live stream. Thank you, and shout out to my people like Candace, who are big supporters of this channel. As you can see, she has a little piece of candy next to her name because she is a YouTube channel supporter. She's also a patron. Thanks, Candace, for your support, and to all my patrons and my channel members. Developers, interesting, great comments today. Thank you so much. Tasha, Troy, Code UI Andy, Gregory Power, Andriel, Scott Miller, Derpty Derp, CGI Main, Luke Stern, Nick Day, Rick Cable, CJ, Curtis Davis, Aldair Balananzar, sorry, I totally mispronounced your name, Cool Johnny, and many others. Sorry if I missed you. Radu, Your Average Programmer, Lloyd Gutu, Tech Rally, what's up? Tech Rally has left the chat, I think. Dan, and any others, Ayub, Average Joe, any others I may have missed. Developers, thanks so much for tuning in. Let's continue the conversation over on the RTC Discord. There's always someone on. It's a fun little place, fun little community. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Boop.